What if I told you there's a simple framework that could have helped taxi companies see Uber coming, or helped travel agencies pivot before the rise of DIY booking apps? It's called PESTEL or PESTEL, and it's like having a strategy radar for your business.
Most businesses don't know it even exists, but once you do, you will be able to spot trends early, pivot faster, and make marketing decisions that actually connect with what your customers are thinking. Today, we'll show you exactly how it works and how to use it in your marketing this week.
Amazing. So, welcome to the Marketing Podcast for Local Businesses, where we provide local businesses in the UK with practical marketing advice to help them grow. My name is Adam, founder of Website Designers London, one of the UK's top 1% online marketing agencies, helping businesses generate tens of millions of pounds.
And my name's Josh. I'm the founder of ImproveMySearchRanking.com, a specialist SEO agency based in South London. We've helped more than 400 businesses generate well over £200 million in sales.
Fantastic. So, what is PESTEL or PESTEL? It's essentially an acronym. PESTEL, spelled P-E-S-T-E-L, is a strategic tool framework that stands for political, economical, social, technological, environmental, and legal factors. It's typically used by companies for strategic planning, but genuinely it's a game changer for small businesses. Whenever you do a business plan, highly recommend you implement PESTEL like you would do a SWOT analysis. If you don't know what we're talking about, look at one of our previous episodes, because it helps you understand what's happening outside of your business, so externally from your business, and what could impact your customers and how they behave or how you should be marketing to them. It's essentially a tool to analyze the external environment to your business. So if you've ever felt like you're playing catch up, wondering what your customers' demand will be, whether it drops or increases, or whether a competitor might start killing it, think, I know we've talked about this before, Blockbuster, Netflix, Toys R Us, Amazon, or WH Smith's more recently. PESTEL helps you zoom out and see the full picture.
Exactly. Let's be honest, most business owners are so focused on the day-to-day running of the business, doing the sales, doing the marketing, doing finance, HR, that they often don't stop to ask, what's changing in the world, what might affect my business, what's going to happen in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, what do I need to do to adapt to stay ahead of the curve. But the ones who do, they make smarter moves. For example, like the florist who realised people were spending less on weddings but more on home delivery subscriptions, so shifted her offer to basically in that fashion. PESTEL helps you see the patterns before everyone else does, essentially, and once you do, your marketing becomes more proactive instead of reactive.
Ultimately, PESTEL can help you survive if your sales are dwindling. It can help you get ahead of the curve. You could be the next billion-dollar unicorn idea like Netflix. You could be the next Uber. If you think ahead, think externally, what's going on in the world? What will people need? What will the demand be? And that's where you can put your supply. Are they changing tastes? That's social. Now let's look into each of them before we move any further. What does it mean? What do each of the letters in the acronym actually mean? So let's dive into each of the factors. So we've talked about what PESTEL stands for. Now political, economical, social, technological, environmental, legal. Let's start off with political. This covers things like government regulations. So the question you should be asking yourself is, how do politics affect my business? That is the question for each of these you should be asking. So political. So it covers things like governmental regulations, local council decisions, tax changes, or even Brexit type disruptions. For example, I've got a friend who is in the process of selling their shop, and they want to the buyer wants to change what they call the use class of the shop. So it was a cafe previously, but in order to sell, let's say, cooked food, let's say in, I don't know, a Turkish restaurant or Turkish takeaway, like a doner place, you need a different use class. It is a it's council regulation. So they now need to look at the cost involved to get that use class in order to be able to sell that shop. So it's super, super important. Now, what if politics change? What if they say, well, in order to get the use class, it's not going to be 10 grand, it's going to be 50 grand? What if they say, you don't need to get the use class anymore, just show us this document, instead of 10 grand, it will be 50 quid. So you can see how this could be a significant impact, significant change decisions for your business. Another example, and we'll go into even more examples later on, but let's say you run a takeaway, your local council is pushing new health rating rules. You can lean in to promote your 5-star hygiene rating across your website and social media and turn that regulation into a marketing edge. That's, again, we'll talk about this we'll talk about a few more examples later on, but that's political. Now, let's ask the same question for economic.
So economical is the second factor of the PESTEL analysis framework. So this, you need to think about inflation, interest rates, energy costs, the general market, consumer spending, how much disposable income does the general public have. If, for example, you're selling a premium product during a cost of living crisis, a bit like today, maybe you need to pivot your messaging and change it. So, for example, if you were offering a luxury, instead of offering a luxury frame around your product, maybe want to change it to lasting quality or affordable, an affordable treat rather than pushing the high-end kind of framing around your marketing. So we've seen a local skincare brand do this. They've, instead of focusing their messaging around luxury and showing the indulgence and of their product, they then switch the messaging to say self-care that doesn't break the bank. And in this simple switch, they've managed to increase their sales going forward.
There we go. So again, that's a great example there, and just ask yourself the question: how does the economy affect my business? Okay. Next one, social. So how does society or social tastes or social norms affect my business? Social factors are all about people's values, their beliefs, their behaviours, and how they're changing. There could be generational shifts. So think about hybrid working. Younger generation want hybrid working. The older generation tend to believe in being in the office 5 days a week because they value that human interaction, whereas the younger generation value the flexibility. Health trends, for example, more people eating organically. So if you own a little supermarket, I say supermarket, more so a little shop that sells fruit and veg, are you going to offer more healthy organic produce? Or even things like the rise of pet ownership, for example. I have a little dog, as I'm sure people know. During lockdown, there was a huge increase in the price of buying a dog because so many people wanted one as a companion during that lockdown phase. So if we take that example, a dog groomer, we know, has leaned into this idea, created loads of TikTok videos of dog transformation from before looking all scruffy and long haired to groomed, or a day in the life kind of vibey stories, so before and after. They went viral, not because of the grooming, but because it tapped into people's emotion and their connection with pets. And again, could you think of a new product to sell to this growing market of pet owners? Perhaps, I don't know, an easy way to get tear stains out of dogs. That's one of my pain points, for example. So could you think of a product or a solution for that? I mean, there might be solutions out there already, but perhaps a new novel solution. Or, for example, Josh and I were talking about mushroom powders and the, lion's mane and reishi, however you pronounce it, mushrooms, and if people are thinking more about their health and trying natural things instead of artificial supplements, and they want to try these maybe do you want to go on a course about mushrooms and go foraging and create your own products? So many examples we could think about just from looking at societal trends.
Good example of that is actually M&S have recently taken advantage of that social trend to around healthy eating. And I was in M&S this morning, and their new cereals, not that I eat cereals myself, my friend wanted some, they're 4 ingredient cereal, so very small amount of ingredients, supposed to be very healthy. And the whole aisle was completely gone, sold out.
Wow.
And the members of staff were saying how it was a TikTok has gone crazy, and they'd generated a lot of interest.
Wow. There we go. Talk about M&S. I saw a documentary on them recently on TV, and they, again, leaning into the protein intake. People want to have more protein in their diets. So now they've rebranded, and you'll see if you go into M&S or Marks & Spencer's, on top of the packaging of their products, they have the protein content in much bolder, larger font to appeal to those people that want to increase their protein content.
Another protein one is Joe and the Juice. That's the brand, isn't it?
Yep.
They sell a rather outrageously high-priced protein shake. I don't know if you've seen it, but I think it's £11. I bought it maybe 6 months ago. I thought it must be quite good if it cost £11, but it wasn't that great. It wasn't worth £11, but they seem to be pointing at that social change as well.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, I must say I've bought that a couple of times. I've said it quite quietly, so maybe people don't hear. But yeah, I've bought it a few times, and it's tasty, but it's the price you pay for a whole lunch,
Yeah.
There we go.
Cool. So moving on to the next factor, which is technological. As you all know, tech is moving very fast. You've got new AIs coming out all the time. You've got automation, new ad platforms, new social media platforms coming out. Everything nowadays is mobile first. You need to be fast and efficient with everything you do in your technology. And if you're not, watching the space, you might be left behind and be using tech from 10, 15, 20 years ago before you know it. So one example of one of our clients who uses ChatGPT, he although I wouldn't really advise it, he generates content for his blog using ChatGPT. I don't recommend it because it's against Google's guidelines, but it's a very fast and efficient way for him to generate content. He then does adjust it slightly, as I mentioned to him would be a good idea. Mm-hmm. And he also uses it to generate images, and ChatGPT recently has a new function where it can generate really, really high quality images. It's worth checking out if you haven't done so already. But yeah, just obviously make sure you're keeping on top of all the technological changes.
Absolutely. So environmental. So how does the environment affect your business? It's becoming huge. I know in the US, if you follow politics, they are going the other way, and it's more of a woke ideology for them. I'm saying the whole of the US, but for example, the current political administration. But in other parts of the world, in Europe, in Scandinavia, the UK still has a huge focus on net zero and the environment. So how does this change affect your business? Well, does it? Look, customers are actively choosing businesses that are eco-conscious. So for example, we've now switched hosting providers. We use a hosting provider that is net zero. So i.e. the servers use renewable electricity. And that's one of our selling points because some of our customers are environmentally conscious, and they will prefer a web developer, an online marketer that uses hosting providers that source their electricity and their energy from renewable sources. So again, I never thought in a million years as an online marketer the environment would affect us. But there we go. That's an example. You'd be silly to not think these elements don't affect my business. Oh, it's in the environment. I'm in the construction business. It doesn't affect me. I bake stuff. It doesn't affect me. Hang on. It could. Very, very indirectly, very minusculely, but it could. Again, if I think of a baker, and this is off the top of my head, this is not script generated. If you bake cakes at home, the electricity you use for your oven, again, I know it's very, very indirect and probably wouldn't affect sales significantly, but that's an example of how the environment could. So if energy prices are increasing, which they are in the current environment because of wars in Russia and Ukraine, because of instability in the Middle East, your costs are going to go up. So yes, it does impact you. I mean, that's more of a economical point, but it's still somewhat linked as well, one could argue. Another one is a local cafe making a splash, just posting behind the scenes content about their composting or plastic free packaging. Again, if you're a baker, you could say that as well. I only use recyclable card to package my large cakes. Look, it doesn't cost much, but it boosted their loyalty, it differentiated them, and it boosted footfall for that local cafe that we know.
So finally, we have legal, and this obviously includes anything that would stop you from doing something because it's against the law, or allows you to do something new, potentially because of changes in the law. This could be anything from advertising rules, data privacy, things like GDPR, which came into... When did that come into play? That was a few years ago. Now must be over 5 years ago. But and there's obviously industry-specific compliance in most sectors and industries in the UK. So as one example, if you're collecting email addresses without the proper consent, or if your website doesn't have a privacy policy or a cookie policy, you could be potentially risking fines. You could be risking breaking the law in sending emails without the proper consent. So one of our clients, what they used to do was they used to scrape the internet, find thousands of email addresses, and then bombard those people with with messages. And to be fair, apparently it worked. It worked for them. I mean, I can't see how it did, but apparently it did. And nowadays that is actually breaking the law, so they had to stop doing that, and they no longer do so.
There we go. Look, again, another element. How does a law affect my business? How might it affect my business in the future? Property developers. We have loads of clients that are in property development, estate agents, and for example, we were just talking about this, Josh, weren't we? Leaseholds. So the government are talking about abolishing time-limited leases, or making it free to extend leases rather than having to pay for leases. Again, it's not come into law, but they're in discussions about what to do and how to do it to make owning flats and leaseholds more profitable. So if you're a property developer owning flats, are you going to have to change your strategy? Are you going to, if you're an estate agent, are you going to have to change the way you charge for flats? Can you increase maybe the way the amount you charge? Can you offer advice and charge for it? So look, some more examples there. Now let's move on. How to use PESTEL on a weekly or monthly basis. So how do you actually use it? It's so simple. Like you just heard us do. Do a quick PESTEL analysis once a month or a quarter or even a year. Sit down on a piece of paper, write out the acronym PESTEL, look at what's changing in each of those categories and ask yourself, does this affect our messaging, our offers, our platforms, our brand positioning, or even our business model? It does not need to be complicated. As I say, pen, paper, write PESTEL on the left-hand side, and then you could even do it on Google Docs, Word document, whiteboard, it doesn't matter. It's just, you could even do it whilst you're driving to work. It's simple as that, but could be super, super effective.
So here's a few quick wins. So firstly, start paying attention to customer sentiment. Are they worried about money, stressed about time, looking for convenience? That's your kind of social and economical intel right there. Secondly, look at your messaging and test it. So if you feel your messaging isn't landing, maybe try, maybe the world's changed basically because your messaging is no longer working. So you need to address that, maybe do some A/B testing, change your messaging, do a few advertisements, see which one works best. PESTEL then kind of help this in this situation helps you correct course. And thirdly, watch what's working for others in your space. Not to copy, but just understand what's trending and what might be working best right now.
Amazing, amazing. So, look, let's talk about some real world examples. Let's wrap up with some quick kind of real world stories. So, think about it. A garden centre noticed a spike in interest around sustainability. They promoted grow your own food kits and composting tutorials. They also kind of the sale of their raised beds and vegetable seeds went through the roof. That's environmental and social. So I was one of those people that bought seeds. In fact, I've got loads of nice tomato seeds on my windowsill. I'll show you in a bit, Josh, that are growing because the idea of growing my own food because I didn't know what was going into my food. You don't know what to believe nowadays, right? So there we go.
And secondly, we had a customer who's a local yoga studio, and actually back during COVID times, obviously everything shut down, so they had to adjust, and they started doing online, on-demand courses, and since that time they've actually continued that to today, in addition to going back to having studio lessons as well. So that's just another example of how I guess there's a social change, kind of also political, and a technological change with the rise of Zoom and remote working and doing things from home.
There we go. So look, that's PESTEL, 6 powerful different ways you can use to see what's changing around you and how to stay ahead. Don't wait until a business is struggling to ask, hey, what's going on? Make this a part of your regular thinking. Your marketing will always stay sharp if you do.
If you found this helpful, please do us a favour, leave us a quick review, share this with someone who runs a business, and subscribe for more weekly episodes packed with strategies that work in the real world. We'll catch you next time on the Marketing Podcast for Local Businesses.